Good morning, afternoon and evening, my crazies. My name's Angela, I'm the Crazy Poppy Lady, and welcome back to video number 3 of the Little Bird cushion cover. Right, so today I'm going to be showing you how to take your Little Bird square and turn it into this. Da, 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 da. Here we go, here it is finished. Now mine is crinkly because I haven't actually got a cushion cover, but I'll tell you what, it hides yarn beautifully. Yes, I have. I've actually got a pack of yarn in here. Yeah, super cheeky. Now come on, let me show you how to make this. Right, so before we get going, the sample I have here has the pattern attached to the base of our bird, but we are not going to be attaching to the base for the cushion. Okay, we are going to be attaching to the top row of our work. Okay, and then we are going to make this panel up here, the rest of this panel, so that we can create a folded envelope style pillowcase, because we all know kids are sicky, yucky little things at times, and we do have to wash these quite regularly. So I've made it so that this pattern is easy and you can take the insert out if needs be to be able to stick this in the wash nice and quickly. Right, so come on then and let's get going. Now we are working onto the join as you go method. Now it does depend on what edge you are starting from, okay, on this next section as to what item you are making. If you are making a cushion cover, then we would be starting from the top. Okay, if you are making the blanket, if you're interested in the blanket, your first panel will be this little bird here, your second is the stripe, your third is this bird, and the fourth is this one. So we are working counterclockwise. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're left or right-handed, we are going counterclockwise because it is actually easier to join these two squares to this one as you're doing the stripes. So the first square we're going to do is actually a blue one. So if you've got any odd balls or oddments left, this is the best time to grab it. And so we're going to pop a slip knot on our hook. Okay, so let's get started. Grab a slip knot and pop it on your hook. You're going to then pop your hook through the first stitch. Okay, pull up your yarn and a chain 2. Okay, we are now going to skip over to the gap between your blocks and pop in a slip stitch, then chain 2, turn your work and work 3 double crochets around that chain 2 that you have just created. Chain 5, place a double crochet in the third, the fourth, and of course the fifth chain from the hook. Turn your work and place the slip stitch around the chain as you would normally do on a corner. Then we are going to chain up 2 and place 3 double crochets around that chain that we created earlier, which is the normal spot, isn't it, for our 3 double crochets. Okay. Now we are going to be joining this to the next block here, okay, to the gap between, but we need to change colour. So the next colour we are working with is white, so grab an oddball. Okay, and what I like to do is I skip back so that I've only got the 2 loops on my hook, and then I pull through the white as normal, just like I've done with the rest of the changes for this blanket. Then we are going to come down, do a slip stitch to join. Now chain 2, jump over to the next gap, slip stitch to join, chain 2, turn your work, place your 3 double crochets around the first section of the chain, slip stitch over to close off the block, and then we carry on with our row. Now the reason I like to do 2 rows is because normally it means that you can use the unworked tails and run them up the side of your project, but of course with this pattern today I've had to be a bit awkward with it because of the striping, so it means that my edges are actually going to be sitting along this line here. Okay, so it does mean we're going to have to sew them in. Right, so let's get on with that last block. Sorry, so that is our 3rd row completed. Keep nudging this. There we go, there's the 3rd row completed. So now it's chain up 5 into the 3rd chain from the hook, pop a double crochet. I'll do a couple of rows with you, but this video today is going to be quite short, and I will just, once I finish doing a few rows, I will of course tell you the colour order if you are copying along with me. Okay, we'll turn our work, slip stitch in, and then chain 2. Carry on the row as normal until you get to the bottom, of course. Coming up on the last square, so I'll be getting my pink in a second to change colour. There we go. So changing to the pink on the last pull through of the last box. we are now going to come down, slip stitch between the two squares, chain 2, jump over to the next gap, chain 2, and of course turn my work. Now at this point, this is where I will be cutting off the white end to sew in later, but let's keep it going. They are 3 double crochets, slip stitch over, chain 2, that's what I need to keep telling you. Okay, so as you can see, this is really easy. The only time your pattern sort of changes between anything is when, of course, you're at the edge, your working edge. Okay, so when you're up here and your box is up here, you need to do your increase, which is your chain 5 and 3 double crochets. Okay, then when you get down to here, you are literally slip stitching in, chaining 2, slip stitch, chain 2, and that counts as your chain 5, the equivalent to what you have on this side. Okay, and then it's turn your work and make sure you work in that bottom half of that first chain, the first section of the chain. Other than that, I think you've pretty much got it, and I believe that you can easily get on with this now without me talking in your ear roll. But if not, I'll do a couple of rows now, extras for anybody that needs a little bit of guidance when they get to the end of the rows. Last block in a row that is going up the side of your blanket or work. Pop your hook in. This is also the increased section of the pattern. Make your block as normal. Chain 5. Double crochet into the 3rd, 4th and 5th chain from your hook. Turn your work. Place a slip stitch around the chain 2 from the block below. Then work your row as normal with a chain 2 and 3 double crochets around the chain, and then a slip stitch to join your blocks. There we go. I'll see you at the bottom in a moment. Okay, so and now we are back to joining onto the previous square. So for this one we are changing colours, and I am changing to blue, and I've done that on the last pull through. Okay, so and now come down to the gap between your blocks, slip stitch, close off that previous square, chain 2, slip stitch to the gap between the next square, let's try that again, shall we? Slip stitch, chain 2. Identify the chain that you just created that runs along parallel with your work. I'm also working over some ends here as well. I'm being cheeky. I'm going to do my 3 double crochets around the ends and around the chain. Slip stitch to the next block and carry on your row. Right, so now is time for the details on what you need to do with this square to turn it into our cushion cover. Now I have got it round the wrong way and upside down, but as we go along I will try and explain it better for you so that yours looks proper with your envelope opening at the bottom, not at the top like mine is. Right, so you've got your bird done. Okay, you are then going to use the join as you go method, and you are going to create, oh, there we go, join as you go method, and you are going to join that on, there we go, on the top section of your bird, and you're going to work your rows from the blue all the way along, okay, until it's the same width. Now if you are just making the cushion cover because you're following along with my tutorials, you keep doing the stripes all the way up, and you keep going until you have a total of 26. Okay, so you keep going all the way up until you have 26 rows, and then you turn your corner and carry on along. Okay, if you are you've made the blanket, okay, you're going to be a little bit different here. You're going to still do your rows, but you're going to do your panel up until it is 20 rows high, and then you are going to add in a solid blue section, okay, which is 6 rows up by the width of the bird block. Yeah, and then once you've done that, pop back to this video and I will then show you how we are going to close the envelope up, sew this all together so that we can pop in our cushion insert. Now it's time to fold up your pillowcase. What you want to do is lay it out flat and have the right side facing you. And our first fold is going to be the 6 squares at the end. Now, as you can see, I did mine in a completely different colour, so it makes it easier when putting it together. But if you've carried on doing your stripes, make sure you just count down 6 squares on either side and then lay that over. Okay, try and get the seam quite flat, just give it a gentle-ish push. Okay, then we can move it a little bit, because what we're going to do is we're going to take the other far corners, which is our bird. Now yours will be facing that way. Okay, so you grab your bird and you bring your bird up as well. Then where that seam is between the bird square and of course your stripe square, that's where your fold is. Right, that's the easy bit done. Now we're going to take some stitch markers. We're going to double check our math basically. What you're going to do is you're going to count down 6 on your bird case. And between number 6 and number 7 you're going to place a stitch marker. Do not close your stitch marker, because you're going to also grab that last square of that set of 6 and also pop that somehow on the stitch marker. Then you take the striped panel and you count down 6. Okay, and that also goes on the stitch marker. Okay, and then you do the same on the other side. Now I'm going to work this from the bottom up, I think, this time, because it's easier that way. So count down 6. Okay, and between the 6th and the 7th we have the stitch marker. Then we take the bottom of our little 6 stitches, that goes on, and then between the 6 and the 7 on our bird panel. This is going to make life a heck of a lot easier when it comes to sewing it up. Now, I'm showing you the method today that I'm doing so that this cushion cover will look the same once I'm finished as the blanket that I've made. So I will be adding a extra border onto this one to help hide any of my stitch work basically as I'm joining it. Now, of course, we've all got different methods of joining our yarns together. Some of us like to do a whip stitch. Perfectly fine, and go for it. Do the method that works for you. Just take into consideration though that if you do plan to add the border that I've shown in the written pattern to this square, then you, of course, it would be best if you followed the instructions I'm showing you now. Okay, right, so we are going to grab our white yarn, because if we have got any stitch work we don't want it seen from the front. Okay, so, and that's why we're grabbing the white. Pop a slip knot on your hook, and while you're doing that I'm going to drop my camera. Right, so now we are going to seam the corner, just not the corner, sorry, the edge, just like I've done here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we will be working on this white edge here. So I like to fold mine over, turn it round, and so that that side is facing me. Then what we're going to do is a bit of a sneaky one here. We are going to place our hook through the gap between the 2 panels at the back. Okay, pull through and finish that as a slip knot. That is just where we are joining our yarn from. Okay, just a sneaky way of hiding it really. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come back to the front. We are going to place our hook through the first stitch on this panel and each of them. Okay, so make sure that you get that very first stitch. This is the most awkward bit. If you're able to work from the other end, I suggest doing it because it's easier to do to start with if you've not done this technique before. Okay, so we got through the first stitch, pull up your loop, finish it off as a single crochet. Then we're going to move on to the second stitch in the block. Oh, I've added an extra stitch on there. No, I haven't. Right, into the second. And third. And at the end of this block, okay, your last stitch will be between the 2 blocks on each row. Okay, so find that with your finger. Okay, so then place it through the gap between all 3 rows. Go over, pull up your yarn and finish it as a single crochet. We're going to do that all the way along, but now we are placing 2 at the top of each square and 1 between the squares. Okay. It just depends on what type of square you're working on as to how easy this little section is. Once we get down here though, you will zoom through, but this first bit, working over these 3, is a little bit tedious and slow. Okay. If you wanted, you could always use more stitch markers and pop a stitch marker in the gaps between each of them. I should have done that, it would have been a lot quicker. Right, there's the gap there. There's the gap there. Now on this last square, if you want, you can be a bit cheeky here and grab that knot, or as close to the knot as possible, and add that in on your between the blocks stitch. Okay, now we're on to the good bit, just a case of lining them up and running those single crochets down your work. See, told you, it's so much easier with two. Now of course you're going to be more precise with this, more neat than this, but mine's a display only cushion cover, so not too worried because it's not going to get thrown about by kids or hugged by kids. It's just going to get hugged by me, so I know where not to squidge it because the seams might collapse. Now I'm only playing. Okay, so we are coming up on the last square now, or the last two squares I should say, to join. Okay, so you've done the stitch between the gap of the two there. You're going to place in, of course, another stitch there, in two, and at the end scoot around, if you can, scoot around both stitches, and then just pop in that last chain to pull up your yarn. Snip it off, pull that away, and scoot, pop your finger and thumb like that, grab your yarn and push down as you pull and scooch that knot down. There we go. Now it's a case of sewing in these four ends and you're all done. Now there is a little variation on this one. If you plan to add the same blanket border or the similar blanket border, details are in the written pattern by the way, if you plan to add this to your to your cushion cover like I plan to do, what you will do is you'll work one side joining, and then you work a single crochet across the bottom of your cushion cover, because of course that's where the opening is. So then you'd work a single crochet across there, keeping the same pattern as you've got here. Then you work up the other side and close it off. Okay, and then you will run a single crochet up. Sorry, this is upside down, it's confusing me today. So that you would then run the same pattern along this edge as well. Okay, so that way the whole bird square will have an edging on it, so that you are then able to attach the blue yarn and make your cutesy border on this cushion. Okay, so please check your written pattern for details on how to do this and where to put your different stitches, and then how to of course do the fillet crochet over the top. Right, that is it for me for today. Thank you ever so much for watching this tutorial. Now if you have made this pillow cushion, this cushion cover, sorry, or of course you've made the blanket as well, whether you sneakily just used all the information on the channel to work it out yourself, or of course if you bought the written pattern, I don't mind which way around to do it, please send me a photograph of your finished work so that I can show it off. The only thing I do ask is that any photographs that you send me and do not have little ones in. I will let you get away with feet sticking out the bottom of the blanket, but please no babies in the photos, because I don't know who is viewing those images and whether they would be able to steal them from the channel or from the video. Okay, so I want to safeguard everybody's babies. By all means, take two, one with the baby and one without. That way I can see, I can sort of go, ooh, that's a cute baby, but know that I'm not sharing that photograph. Okay, so if you could send those photographs to me either via email or pop them up on the Facebook page, or of course pop them up on Instagram and tag me. All details are in the description box down below of those 3 different options. And of course, once you've done it, keep your eyes out, because then it will be shown off and spoken about in the whips, bits and chat. It would be really cool if you could tell me what hook you chose to go with, what stitch you chose to go with, whether it was the corner to corner or the corner to corner mini, and also what yarn did you use. Did I say that already? So it's hook, yarn, and just ask me, I'll tell you in a follow-up email. You know what my brain cells like, it is shut down now. It's like, yes, you're done, finished, now I've got the rest to do. Right, that is it for me for today. I will see you all really soon, so please remember to stay chilled, stay happy and keep crafting. Goodbye everybody. Right, so today I'm going to be showing you how to take your little bird square and turn it into this. Edit magic.